And I'm telling you guys, the only times when I have bad times or hard times in my business are when I stray from EOS. When I do it the way that it's supposed to be, and I'm pretty dogged about it, things go really well. When I try to like make up my own bullshit to throw in there, we end up like, yeah, herding cats.
Hey, welcome to 10X Your Team with Cam and Otis. We're a father-son leadership podcast where we talk with other lifelong learners about making an impact and solving big problems. And, well, you know what? I ain't got a problem today. It's Monday. We're recording on a Monday. And it was a good weekend because, we're football fans. We're really rugby fans, but we watch football. We've been adjusted in our lives. But I will say, and I will, as of this recording, right, you can't take away the win. Once the win goes in the W column, it's there. Nobody's going to take it away. They can protest. They can go to the Supreme Court. Never seen it taken away.
Was there a game that should have been taken away this weekend? I'm like, I didn't watch enough sports.
Not by my count. Not by
okay, there we go.
I mean, the Aggies won. They look pretty good.
Yeah.
I think the rest of the SEC is probably shaking in their boots right now. And believe it or not, the Cowboys and the Broncos won. And I was like, goodness gracious. That's probably why the weather is like it is today.
That's a rare one. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I got a 3-for over the weekend. I will say that Brother Scott's Cubs, boy, talk about getting whooped like a redheaded stepchild on Saturday. That was like Big Brother and his high school friends. So, quick story. One of my best friends growing up, David, his big brother Jeff. And I say they because it was usually him and 3 of his friends. Were about 4 years older than us, and they taught us a lot of life lessons. In David's living room.
Probably the hard way, right?
Yeah. It usually involves sitting and hitting.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Form or fashion.
That's how I learned.
Those. Yeah, is that and
fast way to learn. Yeah.
Cal, man, our good friend, fellow veteran, Cal Riley joined us. Cal, did you, your brother and you have that kind of relationship?
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah. A lot of rough and tough, rough and tumble, man. We were 18 months apart, so.
Oh.
Yeah, we were pretty much always fighting.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I had 2 grandsons over the weekend, and one's 10 months old, and one's just over 3 and some months.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in the 3-year-old definitely wants that.
To roll.
and the 10-month-old is like chasing them around trying to get it. It's pretty funny.
Nice.
It is. And while we're on this subject, because we're all men here, I think there's something to be said for that.
Mm-hmm.
That we have to have that as men. There is a desire of strength, measure of ability against our brethren, whether it is a sibling or other men, and even growing up, we just do it in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, the handshake's the same kind of thing. It's a little bit of just like trying to read in the room. All right, where do I stand in the hierarchy right here?
Yeah, it's almost like when you work out too, you get to hit the bag, right? If you're doing some kind of punching work or something like that, and afterwards you're like, all right, I'm good. I don't need to punch anybody today, right?
Well, I thought you were going to go with you're walking through the gym and you see some dude benching, and you're like, oh, that guy. Wait, time check. Okay, that fucking pussy. I can.
You made it.
Right? I mean, that's
true.
Go.
Yeah. I was going to say, truthfully, this actually, to take a slightly different angle on the conversation, it's something I talk with guys I played rugby with all the time about. After you hang up the cleats and it's like, oh my gosh, I haven't hit anything in a long time. On game days, I still get that as a coach. Like, I'm just this weird feeling like, gosh, I kind of want to just go run into a wall or something, right? There's this weird itch with that. We talk a lot of veteran transition on the show, Dad. We've never talked that kind of aspect specifically. Do y'all go through that also?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I'll share something with you. One of those. I don't think I've shared this before. I used to do CrossFit. I was a CrossFit guy before
Me
CrossFit
too.
became cool
Yep.
and then got weird. I was actually certified. I went to the headquarters and everything. And I remember talking with one of the founders about it. This would have been like 06, 07 time frame. And it was, I made a comment about posting my scores on the blog. Now, I don't know if you were doing CrossFit when they were still doing that, Cal, but it was a sense that gave me a sense of competition.
Yeah.
What my scores were compared to worldwide.
Sure.
What everybody else's scores. Did you look at CrossFit that way also, Cal?
I didn't post scores, but I was definitely looking around the room, like who's.
Oh, you did it like in a gym.
Yeah.
See, I was like the only dude in the gym.
Oh, really?
doing
No,
CrossFit.
I did it in a they call it the box, right?
Yes.
And you'd be doing it, and it's like, all right, I can do more pull-ups than that guy, or like I can, do whatever, or But then we would get to. I always struggle with. I'm a short guy, and I'm not that flexible. Whenever we got into like overhead squats and stuff, I was like, all right, like done. Like I can't do overhead with a barbell. I don't. Why would you do that? Like I don't. In what function when the zombie apocalypse comes? I don't think I'm going to be like running around with a barbell over my head. Like
That's how you take out the zombies, man. Is
yeah,
overhead
just
squats.
like I don't get it. Like or kipping pull-ups, right? Like just do regular pull. Why am I jerking my shoulder up and down? I don't get it. But yeah, I was with you. I was all into CrossFit. I was pretty big into it. My brother was into it too. But yeah, it definitely ran its course for sure. At least for me.
Yeah. Well, for the whole business model and in that life of business and jumping into things, what attracted you to EOS? What was it about EOS that and folks, if you don't know what EOS is, read the damn book. He's got one behind him. I got the same damn book behind me, Traction, Entrepreneurial Operating System. There you go. Cal, what attracted you to that system, man?
Yeah. So I was well, let me back up. So my military experience was in the Army for about 10 years. I got out. So I did just enough. I wasn't smart enough to get out after 4, but I was too dumb to stay in for 20, right? So I
you were
got
that weird
I'm like one of
space
those
of guys,
weirdos.
right?
There's not many of us, man, but it's like I'm a slow learner, but I guess maybe I'm not that slow. I don't know. But yeah, I got out and I joined the family construction business. So I got to work with my dad. It was awesome, man. It was like he was one of these guys that like he just kind of became an entrepreneur, right? He wasn't like one of these guys that's like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur and I have 85 companies. He was like a hard charging contractor. Like he was just trying to make a living for his family, right? So went to work with him. It was awesome. It was he was a ton of fun to be around. And we had a good time, but I always say it wasn't a long time, unfortunately, because he passed away shortly after I joined the company. So here I am, in my early 30s, which isn't that young, right? I'm not technically a child. But although, I don't know, maybe some people would argue that 30-year-olds are pretty, I don't know. I'm not going to ask you how old you are, Camden.
I was just going to say, you have a 30-year-old child?
Well, I was a pretty immature 30-year-old. But yeah, so here I am running this, 24 person, 8-figure company. And it got pretty tough pretty quick. It was, before I knew it, hadn't just grieving my dad, working 90 hours a week for months and months and months and months and months. And everybody was coming to me with all the questions. And the worst thing about that was I was actually answering them because I think I was maybe too arrogant or just too inexperienced to know and to realize that they already know the answer. They don't need me to tell them. Like they got it. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so fast forward, about a year or so and got to the point where it was like something had to give. 90 hours a week. The P&L, the finances weren't looking good. We weren't making as much money as we should have, and it was hard. It was hard on my family. I was working more than I did when I was in the Army. So my wife and I had a heart to heart, and it was like, something's got to give here. Like, I can't be doing 90 hours a week. That's crazy. I went to this conference, and it was just these amazing entrepreneurs there. And every single one of them, they were all like working on things that were future based and that were external and that were exciting. Like, they were excited. Some of them were literally curing cancer. I mean, people were doing amazing things and making a ton of money doing it and having a blast. And everything I'm working on is I'm putting out fires and I'm reacting to stuff inside my company, right? They're outside, proactive, future based. But they're all also like, all of these guys and gals, because there were some pretty sharp women there too. They're all using the same kind of language. And I got a couple of them together and I was like, you guys are on some kind of program. You're doing something. Like, you're all saying the same thing the same way. Like, what are you doing? And we talked about it and they were like, what are you doing? Like, what's not working? I'm like, well, I'm reacting and I'm putting out fires, and you guys are like, oh yeah, you just need to run on EOS. So I was like, all right, what the fuck is that? Like, I got to figure out what this thing is. Picked up the book. I was like, oh my God, this is what I need, right? Implemented it. This was probably about 10 years ago. So we went from me working 90 hours a week to the point where I do 1 hour a week. I still own 100% of this company. It is more profitable. We had our most profitable year last year, and I'm going to say the same thing this year, and I work less every single year. But it's EOS and having a great team. That's it. That's the whole thing. But it's just, I'm one of these guys that, so now I drank so much of this Kool-Aid, now I'm making it. So now I go to one meeting a week for my company, and the rest of the time I help entrepreneurs and their teams to implement this in their business. I'm like one of these true believer guys. And I'm telling you guys, the only times when I have bad times or hard times in my business are when I stray from EOS. When I do it the way that it's supposed to be, and I'm pretty dogged about it, things go really well. When I try to like make up my own bullshit to throw in there, we end up like, herding cats.
Talking the CrossFit conversation earlier, I was thinking about the idea of like competition with leadership. I'm curious, because EOS with that system, then when you have a system, you can have a bit of a scoreboard and you can start to build in that competition a little bit. Yeah. How do you think that competition plays into like your leadership approach?
Oh, that's interesting. I think I'm really interested in investing in this concept around adaptive leadership right now. So like probably about 8 months ago, I was more of a like, oh, they should know this. Let me like help lead them to it. And then I started doing more like, okay, let me be a little bit more direct and tell you what to do. Right. I think there's a time and a place for competition. I think it's got to stay healthy. Right. And I think when we have like different departments competing with each other, that can be healthy. But I think it's when it's like, hey, you guys are going to compete for a promotion. I don't know. We got to be careful with some of that stuff, right?
Right.
But if like, all right, sales department's making all these calls. They're hitting their scoreboard. Is the operations department delivering the good or service? How are we doing there? What's our net promoter score? Or what's our, whatever, however your company measures it. But like kind of creating some of that stuff like can be kind of fun, right? Hey, did you show up with your scorecard with your numbers on? Like, what does your scorecard look like? Versus like, oh man, your numbers have been off for a couple. What are you doing, dude? Pick up your stuff, right? Like, we're elevating the bar as leaders, right? And the hope is that they do it themselves. But even with so we have weekly to-dos in EOS, 7-day action items. The goal is 90% of those should be getting done, right? And you could see like, who are the people that are like, oh my man, I'm just like totally embarrassed, guys. I didn't get my to-dos done. And who are the people that are showing up every week with consistency, getting those to-dos done every single week, right? And it shows you, man. That's one of the interesting things about EOS is like there's a reason why the logo is the light bulb, because it shows you everything that's going on in the company.
So let's walk the path of that realization. You're at this conference. Mm-hmm. What conference was it?
Strategic Coach.
Strategic Coach.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I've heard of them. But let's walk through you came back and you're like reading this book. You're like, oh my God, this is the shit. This is it. This is this is the answer. My thought, somewhat cynical. So, oh well, I think you got that I can be cynical when I sometimes
Sure.
is who'd you fire first? Yourself or somebody on the team?
Yeah, I was pretty close. I was almost the first one. I wasn't quite the first one. It's interesting because those were the first issues. Like, oh, we got to fire this guy, and it was like crystal clear. Like, why haven't we done this yet? Right? We had a guy. He was well intentioned, but man, he wasn't the right fit. Right? And I think that there's this misnomer out there in the business world that like letting people go is bad for them necessarily, right? Like sometimes it can be actually good for them. If somebody's not a good fit, it is not good leadership. It is not compassionate, and that's what my book's all about. It's not compassionate to hold on to somebody if they're not a good fit. You're doing them a disservice. You're in pain. They're in pain. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, make it stop.
Everybody around the damn team is in pain.
You're just like prolonging this, and the whole team sees it. And they're like, Jesus, what are we doing here? So, I think that's something that EOS does really well. Is it helps us to understand that hey, some people not everybody is good at everything. I mean, most people aren't good at most things, right? We've got to figure out what are we great at, what do we love to do, because life's too short. I like to say I'm in the freedom business, the EOS. I mean, it is the ultimate freedom granting. If we know what we want and we know ourselves, and there's that level of self-awareness where we know what we love to do, EOS helps you get what you want. But you've got to have the awareness, right? I like to say, like, I can't help you get what you want if you don't know what it is. Like, if you're like, I don't know what I want to do, I'm like, okay, well, call me when you figure it out, because then I can help you. But an EOS can't help you either, right? It's like we've got to have that innate ability as an entrepreneur to say, hey, this is what I want. It's okay to want that, and this is it, and it's big, and let's do it, or it's whatever, and let's get the people around you that can kind of do that. But so it was we had a guy that we let go, and then it was me I think I was in the ops seat, so I fired myself. I think I fired myself the first day, actually. So I think I was actually the first one fired out of that operation seat. I had to get out of that thing. That was not for me.
Talking about kind of having that scoreboard and the competitive aspects of it there, I would love to hear your perspective on how that plays in. Because to me, it's also like when you create that kind of environment where people are competing with that, the person who doesn't want to compete, you don't really got to fire them. It's kind of a like, hey, Cal, this ain't for me. I need to step away type of thing. And that's a much better place to be, where you are like, hey, we're building this. I'm willing to work with you and help develop you this direction. But also, like, this is the game we're playing. Do you want to play it or not? Right. And I think that's a really powerful place to be. Yeah, go ahead and talk on that, Cal.
No, it's, I had a client last week, and they've been doing this for a long time, and it's like just starting to click. And they were almost there. And I told them, I said, guys, let EOS be the bad guy. Just let EOS be the standards there. If they're not meeting the standard, it's point to the standard and say, hey, this is the standard. We've all agreed to this. This is what the company needs, and you're not getting it done. Either get better or leave. That's it. Those are the only two options. I mean, I think oftentimes with muddy standards or with murky standards, that aren't tied to a result, that aren't tied to numbers, you can't get that, right? It's like master this or understand that or do a good job at whatever. When it's that versus when it's, hey, you need to bring in 5 clients this quarter. Like, that's your job. Like, all right, you either do it or you don't, right? It's pretty straightforward. Not unlike the military, right? You either hit the target or you don't. There's no in between.
I think there's an interesting piece with standards I'd want to drill into, which is, I think, because I've experienced this myself as a rugby coach, is we want to be nice and a little bit forgiving with the standards, not like completely laxing them, but it's like, look, Cal's trying hard. Do we really need to do push-ups because he messed this up? I've been seeing him get it better than those kind of things. But at the same time, that what's jarring to the team is when you inconsistently enforce those standards. Right. So it's like, there's this part where it's like, I want to be compassionate. I want to like, look, we're working hard. I don't need to make everyone hate you because you screwed up today and you're having a bad day at the office. That being said, me selectively choosing what days I'm going to give a little bit more grace, that can also kind of make it seem like then I'm just being a dick when I do want to enforce the standards. How do you balance those two, Cal?
Yeah, there's effort versus results, right? Hey, I tried really hard. I'm working a lot of hours, but the results aren't there. It's like nobody cares. Like you still got to get the result, right? And I think some people just don't have the natural aptitude for certain things, right? Like if you take a rugby team or a football team, right? A great wide receiver's probably not going to be a good center. Like everybody's got different skill sets, right? So if we've got somebody that tries really hard, the goal is let's try to find something that they are really good at. All right, maybe he's not a great fly half, but he can play scrummy or whatever, right? I think that's probably the way to kind of approach that. But you're right. I mean, the standards are the standard for a reason, right? And at the same time, too, there's also this thing. It's the point of diminishing returns, right? So like, all right, we're dropping the balls, we're doing push-ups, we're dropping the ball, we're doing push-ups, right? The beatings will continue until morale improves. But at some point, like, we can't do any more push-ups and we can't catch any more balls, right? It's like we're just done, right? So there is that a little bit. I think it's different with sports and training versus business, right? Reminds me, like, when I was in the Army, I was at the Maneuver Captain's Career Course at Fort Benning, Georgia. I don't want to tell you how long ago it was. I don't want to sound any older than anybody thinks I am, but it was a while ago. And it was.
Remember who else is on the screen?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people are listening though, right? Like they can't tell. So we're doing this night operation in the woods, and it is just pouring out, and we're trying to get up this hill, my platoon. And a couple guys will go halfway up and they'll slide all the way down, halfway up. I mean, it was like an hour. And finally we see I think it was a green star cluster. Our instructor popped the star cluster and just yelled index. And he was like, "You fucking idiots. Like, could have walked around this hill like 3 hours ago. Everybody get your shit out, go to bed. You guys have totally culminated. Like, we've reached the point of diminishing returns," right? He was like, these guys are like, we've been patrolling for 3 days straight or however many days it was. And we had nothing left. We didn't have the common sense to be able to like, well, hey, we're not getting up this hill because it's raining and it's wet. Let's get some ropes out. Let's tie off on this tree. Let's go around it. Let's find a different way, right? We're just like, so I don't know. So I don't know if that resonates or not, but I think sometimes with business, when we push too hard and we don't see the results, that might mean that the standard is too high, right? We get 10 different people trying to do the same thing. Nobody can do it. Maybe we need to lower it a little bit and just get a little bit of success and then build on that.
Yeah, that's great. And, maybe y'all had just watched the Vietnam movie Heartbreak Ridge right before you did that exercise.
Yeah,
great movie. Yeah. And it just for kind of that's where my mind flashed to, is trying to go up a hill and sliding back down.
It was brutal. I'll never forget that.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, we all have those interesting moments in our life that really make an impact. And one of the things I'd like to explore is your journey to entrepreneur. If you think back to being a PL, and the Screaming Eagles, and how different was that? I mean, you got to work with your dad for a little bit, so you got a little bit of this is how to run a company sort of thing, but that was really short-lived.
Yeah.
Did you like instantly revert to PL mode sort of thing, or company commander mode, or what was that
That's
like?
An interesting question, right? It's like, I was a terrible platoon leader. I was so bad. I was so bad. It's like, we're all bad, but I was like particularly bad. Arrogant and like, thought I knew, like, thought my shit didn't stink. I thought I knew what I was doing, and like, man, I was bad. So many stories about that, but yeah, I think like, hindsight's 20/20, right? With 20 years of leadership experience, like, I would hope that I would see myself as not a great leader when I was in my 20s, right? Hopefully, otherwise, like, I probably haven't learned much. So, in a lot of ways too, it's interesting how the military does that, right? They take the youngest officer and they're just, all right, good luck. What's going to happen, right? Probably not great things. I had some buddies that were really good PLs though, but I don't know. It just didn't click for me. I think for me, I didn't understand how important it was that the guys knew that I cared, right? They'll never care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? And as a PL, you don't know much anyway, so you've got to care. I heard my battalion commander say that to me. He said, they'll never care how much you know until they know how much you care. And he said that to me, and I was like, yeah, it's just like, fucking bullshit that a field grade would just say to like a, lieutenant. Like, okay.
What's he know?
Yeah.
Stupid.
Like, all right,
commander.
whatever. But yeah, like as I get older, it's like, oh yeah, that was some pretty good knowledge that, my thick skull wasn't ready for, but I heard it eventually, maybe too late. But yeah, I think, as an infantry officer, as an officer, leader in the military, learning to delegate is critical. I mean, you have to do it, right? But it's not human nature. So it's almost like, for me at least, when I got to the business world and everybody's like, what do I do? Human nature is somebody asks you what to do, you're going to tell them, right? Okay, this person needs me to know. They don't know. They need me. Here you go. This is what to do, right? That's our ego talking now. They probably know what to do. Like, well, I don't know. What do you think we should do, right? Would have been a better question. Instead of that, I'm just running around telling everybody what to do, right? And you can't scale that. And that's what led to 90 hours a week. But that's human nature, and we have to like almost fight that as leaders, right? It's like when you think about your organization or whatever you're doing, right? As a tree, right? You've got the branches and the leaves, and then the trunk and the roots, right? Something happens to the leaves of a tree. What does that do? Nothing, right? It's even normal. Fall, the leaves come back, and it's seasonal, and that's okay, right? Something happens to the root or the trunk, though, we've got a problem, right? So I think our organizations are a lot like that. And when we engage with other leaders, I think understanding, is this an opportunity for this leader to grow and develop? And all I'll lose is a couple leaves? Or is this the roots of the trunk? And like, hey, guys, we can't fuck this up again. Like, we got to like really make sure we're on track here. So I think for me, it took me a while to figure that out. I did not know that coming out of the gate. I think to answer your question directly, I reverted to, hey, command and control and like, drill sergeant, and you don't know, I will tell, and like do this, and just telling people what to do. But that led to 90 hours a week and a whole lot of pain. And I think anybody who's got any leadership skills at all knows that is not sustainable or scalable, right? Can't scale you.
How do you talk about that pain there? It brings to mind the concept of like good pain versus bad pain. Of like, hey, am I pushing through and I'm getting better with this, or is that the nerve in my back that's pissed off and it's going to cause a lot of problems, right? Being able to understand the difference there. How do you think you tease those two out as a leader? To me, it's kind of like the whole busy versus productive kind of conversation, where it's like, are you in pain because things are going well and you're doing your job right, or are you in pain because you're doing your job completely wrong? What are your thoughts with that?
That's a great question. I think when we think about as leaders, right, when we're comfortable, we're not growing or learning. We're just not, period. But when we start feeling that like, ooh, like this is weird, like this is a hard conversation that I'm about to have, or man, this is a tough thing that we're about to do, that's us growing, right? So when we don't feel like that, and that there's times that we should be like, there's almost, it's almost cyclic, right? There's times where there's a time for everything, right? There's a time to reap, a time to sow, a time for peace, a time for war, right? There's a time to grow, and there's a time to be profitable, right? I think when we think about good pain and bad pain, right? Good pain, I think, is growing, is when we are setting big goals, when we are trying to improve the world and our organizations, right? Bad pain, I think, is reacting. When we're reacting to the world is not kind to people that react to it, right? And the people that react to it are people that typically don't set their own goals, that don't have their own path, right? I think the other thing in terms of bad pain is repetitive, similar pain, right? We're going through the same thing. Again, we haven't learned the lesson yet, right? Like the lesson will continue to present itself until we learn it, right? That is life 101. A lot of times with our kids, right? You guys ever have this where your kid's about to do something and you're like, oh, like, man, hey, this is not going to go well for you. I can tell you right now, like I've been there, like this is, ooh, that girl, or you got to study for that test or whatever. But sometimes they've got to learn it on their own. And I think that is actually both good pain and painful, right? It's painful for us as parents to watch that and to sit there and just say like, he's got to learn it on its own. I tried, but they need it, right? Sometimes they need it. I think so many times as parents and as leaders, right? We try to like protect and like bubble wrap everybody and like not let them fail. That is, in my opinion, I think that's the worst thing that you can do for somebody is to not let them fail. We've got to let them fail, but we got to let them fail at the leaves, not the roots, right?
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. As a parent and doing things, and you just flash me back to Saturday morning, grandson running back and forth on the couch, which Camden would have never been allowed to do, right, Cam? Going back and forth on the couch, jumping, climbing up over where he could fall off the backside.
Yeah,
I'm like, you know what? That's good. It kind of back to what we talked about right there at the beginning, that wrestling thing.
Yeah.
You got to do those things. You got to allow folks to fail.
Yep.
But that's also something that you had to learn after leaving the Army, because, I joke about it tongue in cheek, from time in the Army, failure is death. In a lot of cases it was.
Yeah.
But in the same sense, the culture of the military was there is no room for failure and screwing things up, even when it wasn't downrange, if you will, in combat where somebody could die from that failure. Even if it was just you screwed that up, you're fired.
You're all fucked up because you messed up the hail and farewell. Like, who gives a shit? But no, you're all fucked up. Yeah, you cannot fail at anything. So
that's a whole nother thing that you had to adjust. I'm guessing as you stepped out of uniform.
Yeah, no, great point. When you're in the military, there is this expectation that everything you do needs to be right, and there is no it needs to be perfect, right? Whether it's the ruck march, with the live fire range at the end, and then where are the MREs or whatever, right? And it's like every little thing should be perfect, right? Especially like as an officer, when you're planning these missions, if anything is not perfect, you take personal affront to it. Like, God, man, I didn't do that well or right. I didn't do that right. I messed that up. Next time, I hope I get better at it, right? And I almost feel like that's a detrimental attitude for us as business guys, right? Because if you're not failing, you're not trying, and progress is the enemy of perfection, right? So if I'm sitting here trying to craft this perfect email to a supplier, and it takes me 8 hours to do that, but I could have called 30 clients in that time, like what am I doing, right? It almost goes back to like, hey, the government is still the government, right? It might be the military, but you're in the government. You got tons of time to do that, whatever it is. A lot of times, right? Not always. Sometimes you don't have time and it still needs to be right. But typically there's more time available, especially in the rear, than you have as an entrepreneur, right? It's all results based. So you don't have a lot of time. You have to figure out how to, make the best out of it, and crafting that perfect email to that supplier or whatever. It would behoove you to not do that. Like, maybe pick up the phone and call the guy and just, hey, get curious, right? I think that's the other thing about the military is, in the military, maybe, and less so in the special operations community, but curiosity is generally not rewarded well, right? It's like you can't go to your boss or to your commander and be like, hey, what the fuck are you thinking with this? Like, I don't get it. Like, he'll be like, what? Okay, I'm relieving you. I'll get another guy who will just color within the lines, right? In the civilian world, though, however, as a leader, in the business world, we have to be curious. We are incurious at our peril, right? Like, we have got to be curious. If we're not curious, we'll miss something. We'll miss the whole point. You'll miss why the client's hiring you. You'll miss why you got that great recruit that you've been trying to get, or why that person left you. So yeah, I think that's an interesting, dichotomy too between the two of them. Those differences there as well.
I'm curious. I want to kind of dive into something of, obviously with EOS talking about, systems, right? Very important there. But one of the conversations we've been having on recent episodes is like how much can you expect leadership to fit into a system? How all these different components of leadership, there's a lot of them that go back to like human nature, like we're talking about ego and these different things, competition, that need to compete with each other, all these different kind of factors there, that once you make it a system and you put the scoreboard, now I'm thinking one dimensionally. I'm thinking about the scoreboard. I'm not thinking about all these other intangibles there. What are your thoughts, Cal, on trying to balance those two? Because you need the system. If you don't have a system at all, things are just going to fall apart. But you almost need to have it so you can also leave the system, right? What is the balance there?
Yeah, that's a really interesting concept. I think the system has to be simple, right? And I think that the system has to take care of the things that are not the human things, right? Like we've still got to have the leadership attributes. We've still got to be able to motivate people, right? If the system prevents us from doing that, then maybe it's not good, right? Or if we spend so much time messing with the system, right, it takes us away from other things. So I think it's got to be simple and it's got to work. I mean, that's why I like EOS. It's simple and it works, and it's worked for 100,000 companies. Like it's not like some stuff that I just made up and just like it's a real thing. I think, to your point, right, when we look at the military system, it brings back a funny story, or just, I don't know, I thought it was funny. I'm in some kind of training thing, and we're doing the, Otis, do you remember the MDMP, the military decision-making process? So we're doing MDMP. For the listener who doesn't know what that is, you're lucky that you don't know what it is, because it can be incredibly painful. It's basically like a planning exercise that you go through. I've been out for too long to describe it in greater detail than that, so I won't try my hand at that. But we're in this class environment.
That's where the difference between getting out at 10 instead of 20. It's ingrained. Thing, right? We can spend the next hour. I can explain it to you.
If you want me to hang up and call back, you guys can talk about it, but I don't want to hear that shit. So we're in this classroom environment. They've got us broken up into different groups, right? And everybody's doing this MDMP, military decision-making process, right? And Otis, we get to a certain point of it, and I say, I'm pretty good at MDMP at this point. We've got a varying group, right? But again, 6 different groups doing it all on different missions, right? And it's just for training. And we get to the COA part, and I say, hey, check it out, guys. We're going to do directed COA. And they're like, what does that mean? And I'm like, that means that I'm the commander, and this is the COA we're doing. We're not going to do multiple courses of action. We're just going to do this one, right? Anyway, so long story short, the rest of the groups ended up working their ass off for like 3 weeks on all these crazy COAs and stuff, and we were out of there in like 4 days. But I just say that to say, like, we've got to make the system work for us, right? If we're just doing the system just to do it, and it's like, hey, there's one course of action that's the obvious one. We're not going to spend all of this time doing this other stuff. We're just going to execute on it, right?
Yeah. Well, and
doing that made me very popular with my peers. I'll tell you that, because everybody got some time off, which is valuable.
Yeah, I remember it was IOAC when I was there. Not maneuver, whatever the hell it was you just said, fancy term.
Maneuver Captain's Career Course, or IOBC was what it was when I was an infantry officer.
Yeah, it was the Infantry Officer Advanced Course was the last time I was at Fort Benning's School for Boys. I 100% on the systems, and I adopted this. I worked at the largest bureaucracy in the world, NATO, because it involves 27 countries' bureaucracies. So you multiply each country's bureaucracy. So it was a nightmare.
Like a self-licking ice cream cone, right?
Yeah. Well, and when I told my guys, because we were a new organization there, was if the system doesn't work, then throw the system out and make a new one.
Totally.
And I think too many people do things like that, whether it's EOS or, there's some other systems out there that I can't think of. I was going to say John Maxwell, but he doesn't really have a system, but a leadership system, whatever that is, MDMP, whatever that is. If that system doesn't fit what you're trying to do, then why the hell are you doing it?
Absolutely.
I think people are so tied up in I got to fit my stuff, how I do things into this box because everybody else does it that way. Therefore, I should do it that way, which is very different from when you were a PL. and very different in how you do a lot of things. I think, have you run into that where you've been like, oh man, I got the answer for you, and you hand them a client. Let's just use the EOS example. You hand them the box and they go, okay. And they start doing it. But then you're like, oh, wait, yeah, we don't need that. Kind of that as I guess as a true implementer should be doing with EOS, instead of just saying, here's the answer.
Yeah, I think where I see that a lot is with companies that are not technically target market, right? So like if it's an entrepreneurial company, it's 5 to 250 people, like probably everything's going to be pretty good. I mean, you really, but that being said, they might come in, for example, with their core values already hammered out. Like, hey, we've had the same core values for 10 years. Like if you got core values and you're good, we're going to test them, make sure they're good. And then, hey, we don't need to reinvent the wheel, right? Where I do see that happening a lot is with companies that, as I said, aren't target market, right? So if it's a bigger company, it's a subsidiary of a company, it's a franchise, or it's a nonprofit, right? There's a lot of like, okay, this is not really designed for you. This is designed for entrepreneurial companies. So if you want to act like that, then then this will work. But yeah, I think it's all about, making it work for you. But, that it goes back to having the right system, right? If it's simple enough and flexible enough, it shouldn't be a problem, right? Like, I'm pretty sure everybody can get behind having one meeting a week. Like, if you're like, no way, that's insane. Like, that, okay, maybe you don't need a system, but like pretty much every system is like some kind of a meeting, right? Pretty sure everybody can get behind having some type of a goals at some type of a certain pace, right? Like, hey, yeah, that's what we have, right? Pretty sure everybody can get behind like having accountability where people are responsible for certain things. So that way you don't have like the government handshake with two different people pointing at each other. Like, okay, if you can't get behind that stuff, then it's like, yeah, EOS probably isn't going to work for you. But I do think that there's a lot of, and I don't know anything about, other systems, but there's a lot of systems out there that are really complicated and overly prescriptive. And I think that's where you see the need for like, oh, we're going to throw this out, we're going to put this in. But EOS, I think one of the benefits of it is just how simple and how clean it is.
Mm-hmm. Talking about the systems there, going back to like systemizing leadership, I'm curious, Cal, what are your thoughts on like measuring the success of leaders? Like we were kind of joking about the scoreboard earlier. It's like, well, who spent the most time talking in the meeting? That's the leader. And it's like, all right, well, no, that's just Otis. He likes to talk. Like the real leader is the guy who can step back and go, I don't need to be talking right now, right? There's all these different things that we can look for, but it's so situational as a leader that it's really hard to measure that.
Right.
Now, before we dive completely into trying to measure it, I want to hear your thoughts, Cal. Do you think it's worth trying to measure? Because I think that at a core level, that's where it's like you can spend so much time trying to figure out who the right leader is, who's really moving the lever. Was it really Bill Belichick or Tom Brady? I don't know. At the end of the day, I think it was Brady. It's not worth the time, keep going. Right? Yeah, I think the data's starting to say that now. But yeah,
it's obvious now.
We have the data.
North Carolina's results. I mean,
but yeah. No, that's a really good point, man. Well, I think you said something really interesting where we talked about like who's the leader. It's the guy doing most of the talking, and I think for me that has been the biggest challenge to overcome. Of like, hey, I need to shut the fuck up. Like there should be unless it's one of those roots or the trunk. I should not be. If we're talking about leaves and they're totally messing it up, I'm letting them do that. Because that's them growing, right? That's them working together as a team. Now, I will ask questions and say, hey, what did we learn from that experience, right? Just to like try to anchor it. Like, okay, guys, like that was interesting. What did we learn? What did you guys learn from that? Like, or what, maybe thinking to myself, what did I learn? The other thing too is I find myself, as I get older, I'm making more and more notes and doing less talking. So I'll sit in the meeting and I'll say like, and I'll hear something and I'll say, I wonder if this is a good question to ask them. I'll write this down. Or I wonder why they're doing this, or I'll think of something, right? And instead of verbalizing it, I'll write it down, right? But I think when you talk about results, I know that was just kind of your first kind of comment here. But talking about results and measuring results, is it worth it to measure results, or is it worth it to how do we tell who's an effective leader? How do we measure that? And that's my answer: results, right? Effective leaders fucking get shit done, like. They get shit done. They hit the numbers. They hit the goals, right? You make the acquisition. You get the client. right? It's like, you guys ever see that movie, The Rock?
Mhm.
Yeah, you probably know which part I'm talking about. Like, hey, losers always whine about their best, right? Like, what do winners do, right? It's the results that matter, right? So I think, like, when we get into overly complicated metrics on measuring leaders of, like, you know, who talked more or who, like, I hate these blind 360 surveys. I think that is the biggest bunch of fucking bullshit, dude. Um, if we're not able to be open and honest, that shit is toxic. These surveys, I don't know. Some people like them.
They don't help.
I don't think that they're worth anything. People need to be able to say things to your face. They got if they can't tell you that you messed something up as a leader or something you can improve as a leader, you're not a good leader. Like, you're just not, right?
What's when you think back, even though you have a poor memory of the MDMP, we could talk about that some other time. What's missing between what you learned MDMP wise and what you learned EOS wise? Kind of those processes and systems. What's all of it kind of together when you step back and go, maybe this, maybe that.
Yeah. Well, I think MDMP is for one mission, right? We're going through one mission, regardless of how long it is, right? I don't think that they have a weekly scorecard. I think when we see the military is too rigid to have an effective accountability structure, right? Hey, I'm the cherry second lieutenant. I'm in charge. Like, I'm the number one in the box, right? Like, is that really who should be in charge? I don't know, right? So think about every single organization, right? All the way up to battalion command, special forces, ODAs, etc., right? It's not the best person in charge. It's the person with the rank, right? That's who's in charge. It's not necessarily the person who's best suited to that task. So I think that's the other thing that EOS does is it's hey, open and honest for the greater good of the business. Who's the best person to sit in this seat, right? And what seats do we need? What does this structure need to look like for us to be successful? Military is very rigid, right? It's, hey, you're going to get 5 detachments and you've got 3 companies and that's it. Like, that's your, good luck. Go out there and get it. It's not like, well, I actually need, I guess you can request, extra assets and stuff like that. But I think it's probably the entrepreneurial spirit of it, right? We have to figure this out, and we have limited resources, right? It's not brigade telling battalion what to do, battalion telling the companies, and the company comes out and says, okay, hey, you're the shaping effort too, or whatever. There's no other higher entity. It's us. We just got to figure it out, right? We're not waiting on higher ups op order, and then once you get that, you're like, oh, okay, cool. We're on the left flank. Like, got it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So how'd you in that same line? Because one of the things that one of my give backs, and I can't remember if I mentioned this to you before or not, but I coach veterans or guys that are transitioning to become veterans, and you step away from the top down, the training schedule, you wake up the next morning after your retirement ceremony or your the last day in uniform, and now you own it all. How do you set the goals for yourself and your clients so that you know what right is?
Well, I guess when I think about this for myself, and I think this is a good place to talk a little bit about the work that I'm doing with Stop Soldier Suicide. So this book, it's called Entrepreneurial Compassion. All the proceeds, all the profits go to Stop Soldier Suicide. And I write a little bit about this kind of concept of self-awareness, right? So the first step is we've got to put our own mask on first, right? So in order for us to be able to set good goals, in order for us to be an effective leader, we've got to have this self-awareness. We've got to spend some time on and with ourselves, right? Where they used to say, like, when we were downrange, buy with and through, right? It means you grab a couple Iraqis and throw them in the building and like, yeah, it was Iraqi led, like whatever. Anyway, but yeah, we've got to start like with ourselves, right? So it starts with self-awareness, which comes from, taking time, meditating, journaling, doing that stuff that we call like, hey, that's like foo-foo bullshit when we were in the Army. But now, man, that stuff matters. Like, we've got to spend the time on ourselves, and doing that helps us to make really good goals, right? It helps us to be better people. It helps us to show up as better leaders, as better coaches, as better husbands, as better fathers, right? And I think not doing that, it's like you can have a conversation with somebody who is really checked in and hyper self-aware, and you can feel it if you're one of those people. If you're somebody who does stuff like that, if you're somebody who's aware of yourself, right? But then when you have somebody who isn't that way, you can tell right out of the gate. You can just say, like, man, this guy is just not, like, we're not here together on the same wavelength, right? So I think it's got to start with our own work. It's got to start with ourselves, right? And that's where compassion starts. We've got to take care of ourselves. We've got to work on that negative talk, right? Oh, Callan, you fucked up the op order again. Like, I can't believe you messed up. The live fire exercise, second platoon should have been at the reflexive range. Or like, man, you messed up this hire, right? We've got to be kind to ourselves. We've got to accept the loss and learn from it. The learning is the gift, right? When we lose, when we fail, the learning is the gift. If we accept it, if not, we get it again. We'll keep getting it unless we learn it, right? But I think this concept of compassion is really important to talk about, right? Because we talk about leadership, we can talk about systems, we can talk about all that stuff, but none of it fucking matters. Because if your people don't know that you care, they'll never care how much you know, and they'll never follow you. But if you genuinely care about them, not only is that good for us as an entrepreneur, it's good for us health-wise, it's good for us mentally. Entrepreneurs, veterans, a very high risk of suicide, right? This helps prevent that. It also helps the people on our team. It makes it so they really want to come to work. I mean, there's nothing like having a company where you have your own company and then you don't want to go there because you don't really enjoy the people that you work with, right? That doesn't make any sense to me. You should love going there. You should have awesome people that you love working with that are great at their jobs. And if you've got somebody who you really care about and they're not good at their job, you've got to set them free. It's up to you to do that. But
Cam, I thought you had one more. There's that awkward pause of
no, I will save it for what I learned here in just a moment.
Oh. Well, thanks for the help on that segue.
There you go.
Spoiler alert.
They should know it by now.
So,
450 freaking episodes.
Yeah. I thought your comment, Cal's comment about delegation is not human nature. I never thought about it that way. I think that's such a great way of thinking about it because we don't want to bother other people with our problems. We don't want to. We should care. We should be able to do it all.
Yep.
And it's such a false belief of human nature that we have that. So I love that perspective of it. Cam, how about you? What'd you learn?
Yeah, I think it was, Kyle, you're talking about like veteran transition and entrepreneurs and, dealing with like the mental health side of things and trying to push through. I think there's two kind of almost like conflicting ideas sometimes of it's like trying to do it the smart way, trying to, the woo-woo stuff, we joke on the show that we're 30% woo-woo, right? There's a value to a lot of those things. But then also there's this, phrase all the time that comes out of it's like, no one's coming to help you. It is your responsibility. And those both can be true at the same time, I think is the big kind of light bulb moment I was having there, that face you saw, Dad, of it's like, look, it's your responsibility. No one's coming to help you. That doesn't mean you need to go bang your head against a brick wall constantly. That doesn't mean you have to brute force your way through the problem set. It's still your responsibility. You still got to be the one doing the fight, but you should fight smarter at the same time. And I feel like that's a layer of nuance that's just missing from that conversation a lot of the time.
Awesome. Cal, how about you, man?
I really enjoyed when we were talking about training and executing, and we didn't quite say this, but it just kind of gave me this idea of, as entrepreneurs, we're always executing. We're very rarely training, right? But Camden, when you started talking about holding people to a high standard, I thought about this idea of, what if we did more training as entrepreneurs, as leadership teams, right? And when we do that and we hold ourselves to those higher standards, right, it's going to make those results and the execution so much easier. So I really appreciated that, and that's really got my wheels spinning. Yeah, that was great, guys.
When you come up with the answer on that, Cal, let us know, because I've asked that hypothetical of like, hey, Dad, all right, yeah, Green Berets are great leaders. We can't ship out the business to go become a Green Beret. That doesn't work. You know, the trainings, the games of that, it's a little hard to translate.
Yeah. We have talked about that several times. Matter of fact, I think I've done a couple of talks on cross training and the value of it, but that's you got to make that decision, right? Does you're playing the long game when you start talking about those sort of things. I think that's one of the things that EOS helps you do, because if you can step out of it, like you talked about what you've done with your business, the construction business, the family one, that you can shift that into doing those sort of things, that broader approach. So, and sorry, somebody that wasn't supposed to walk up to the door just walked up to the door and distracted my whole train of thought on that. But anyway, back to the show, folks. Man, how do folks find you? Learn more about what you got going on, implement some EOS stuff.
Yeah. So, kind of a couple different things that you can do. So the first thing you can do is go to my website. It's calriley.com, CALRILEY.com, CALRILEY.com.
Could you spell that phonetically, please?
Oh, man. Charlie, Alpha, Lima, Romeo, India, Lima, Echo, Yankee. I think I did it right. Hopefully I did it right. So
sorry, I couldn't resist.
No, you're good. I have the book out, so it's available on Amazon. It's called Entrepreneurial Compassion. All proceeds go to Stop Soldier Suicide. Pick up a copy of the book. My goal, what I'm trying to do, is create 1 million compassionate leaders and prevent 100,000 suicides. So pick up the book. If you learn something about yourself, go on my website. You can take the survey and see how you're doing at this. I think you'll be surprised with some of the questions on this survey. That it's a free survey. Go take the survey, get a feel for how you're doing at it, see where you could improve at it. And then what I would love is if you'd be willing to take the pledge to become a compassionate leader. That's also on my website, calriley.com. Go take the pledge. Let's change the world. Let's make it a better place. Let's prevent some suicides.
Awesome. Cal, thanks for your time today, man. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Camden, run us out.
All right. Thank you all for listening to today's episode of 10X Your Team with Cam and Otis. And a special thanks to our guest, Cal Riley, for joining us today. Remember, you can watch full episodes of the show on YouTube at 10X Your Team. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to pass along to other lifelong learners in your tribe so that they can enjoy it too. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. As always, that full archive of episodes available at www.10xyourteam.net. Thanks again, and we'll see you all next time.